Hello and welcome back to Boxing Social in association with Betfred. My name is Ayman. We're here in Romford with the one and only the Romford Bull, Johnny Fisher. Johnny, good seeing your natural habitat. How you doing?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you doing? All good? It's nice to be here in the sunshine and the rabbits. Lovely.
Yeah, not too bad. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us down here. Johnny, it's community is the word I want to use to kind of describe what I'm seeing here. And you, as a fighter, separate yourself from the pack, essentially, from a lot of fighters who are coming through who've looking to build, looking to get a fan base, but you've been able to do that, and the only way you do that is being honest, real, and presentable to the people that you're trying to show what you're all about. And in terms of you being able to connect with people, do you feel you've been able to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just from the way I've been brought up and the people that are around me. These are my family and friends. A lot of these people. So it's not so much like what you were saying there. It's like I've tried and engineer something. Not saying you're saying I've done that, but it sounds like, oh, this is the tactics I've used to get this fan base. But for me, it hasn't really been like that. It's just been people want to support me. I'll be honest with where I am in my career. I know I'm not a world beater. I know I've got a long way to go, but I'm excited and people want to come and watch. So if you bring entertainment for people, it doesn't matter what level you're at, and if you're honest about where you are, people want to come and watch and support. And I think that's testament to a lot of the genuine people I've got around me.
No, that's very, very much well said, and you're definitely building in terms of where you are and the fan base that you've got within boxing. But in terms of where you feel because you've turned professional over last year, in terms of your career so far and where you're at right now, how do you feel your progression has kind of gone?
It's gone very well. I look back on my first 4 opponents, little progression there from the likes of Matt Gordon to Danny Whitakers and Toreros, people like that. And I think that's the sort of level I've got to not stay at, but that's the sort of level I'm dealing with for the next few fights. And Nguema was a good test as well. He was a level above in terms of the people that he's mixed it with, and I know from that I've still got a very long way to go myself. I've done well against him. I completely nullified him. I was comfortable in the fight, but you can't just walk through people all the time. And that was a great learning fight for me because I dealt with a little injury in my hand, a broken hand. I had a cut, and I got 6 rounds under my belt. And I'm not under any illusions. I'm not deluded about where I'm going in my career. I've got a very long way to go, but it's good that I've got a very long time. I'm 23 years old. In 10 years' time, I'll be in my peak. So there's no rush, and no one's going to rush me. My managers or my trainers. I've got a great management team, great trainers who support me and give me the right diet of people. While I've got them around me, I'm in a great position.
With that being said then, do you kind of have for your own kind of self a checklist of goals of things that you want to complete year by year, or do you just kind of see how it goes with things?
I honestly don't. Look that far ahead. I never. That's not the way I've gone about my career. All I think about is who's the next fight and how do I beat them. And I think that's the best way to do it. Because if you told me 2 years ago I'd have the great support that I've got now, be on Matchroom and selling this amount of tickets and having this much support, I would have kicked myself. I would have said you're having a laugh, aren't you? So there's no rush. The one thing of having a big fan base is it can be tempting to rush someone because you're on later in the bill. My last fight I was chief support. Do I need to be rushed? No, because I've got something good going here. Let's keep it going. And the right test, when I'm ready, will come along. And it's not about just fighting bums and people you can knock over. It's about fighting people at the right level. And I apologise for using that word bums, but you know what I mean. You know, people that you're meant to go and knock over. That's not the way I want to roll. I want to roll, take things step by step and move up through the ranks.
I won't go over too much old ground because we spoke in the aftermath of Chisora Pulev 2 and we talked about your reaction to that. But one thing you did mention was, and you've mentioned before, is the spars that you've had with Chisora and the learning that you've gained from those. Just tell me kind of the overview of Chisora, what he kind of does in the ring in those spars and what you take from them.
Yeah, it's great to just be around Chisora, not only for the sparring, but the way he runs his camp. He's a very experienced guy, a very diligent guy in terms of, I know he's got a wild character, he's crazy at times, but the way he's a professional, he's done it for so many years, decades, so brilliant to see how he operates. Had some great rounds with him, learned from him, felt his experience, felt the aggression of the man, but in a controlled manner, so great work for me, and hopefully we can work together moving forward after this fight.
Is there a piece of advice or something that you took from the spars that you kind of want to apply forward going into your fights?
Don't leave it in the training camp. Don't kill yourself sparring 10, 12 rounds before a fight. Leave it in the tank for when you go in the fight, and that's paid off for him because obviously we know Chisora's not the freshest in the world anymore. When I was sparring him, he weren't sparring 12 rounds. He was just doing what he had to do, and he ticked over perfectly and left it in the ring rather than leaving it in the training camp.
I find it very interesting, especially with the British crop of heavyweights, that in amongst all the other divisions, some of the fighters don't tend to spar everyone else, whereas the heavyweights, they just want to get around and they'll trade leather with anyone and just gain from everyone. And I find that quite interesting. Why do you think that is amongst the heavyweights?
I haven't really thought about that until you said that now, but you are right. A lot of heavyweights just move around, they get in with anyone. I think there's an understanding among heavyweights that you've all got power, you're all strong, and it's about development. That's what sets heavyweights apart, because if everyone can punch and everyone's strong and big, the things that are going to develop you are skills. So the only way to get your skills, you can do as much pads as you want, but you've got to spar people more experienced, people from different camps, people with different promoters. There's not got to be any bars for that. So it applies more so to the heavyweights, because everyone's big, everyone's strong, but what will set you apart in that division is being able to do the simple things well.
That leads the question to, is there a heavyweight you haven't yet sparred that you want to spar, Johnny?
I'd love to spar Joshua or Usyk. Usyk would be a nightmare to deal with, I think. Just be hard to get near him. And Joshua, obviously, he's a fan favourite. He's been brilliant for British boxing, and he's been at the top level. So it's great to spar people at the top level of boxing. It's important to spar the top level guys, and it's also to inspire people that are similar level to you. So it's good to mix it all up. But them two guys would be great.
You and your dad are very much two people who I watch you two, and I'm smiling whenever I see your interactions, or you on the camera or him on the camera, which is very interesting as well, because when you look at father-son relationships in boxing, it doesn't always go plain sailing with that. Why does your connection work in terms of just you two in the boxing sphere, whereas others might not?
I think it's because I think your dad knows you better than anyone else, so he's got your best interests at heart. Don't get me wrong, me and my dad have arguments, we have discussions where we don't agree, but then at the end of the day you get over them and you both realise you both want the same for each other, you want the best for each other. And when my dad says something, you think, oh, what's he saying that for? It don't make sense. But then you realise after a little bit he's saying the right thing. But we get on because we both want the same thing. We just want to be successful. We want to go as far as we can in this sport, and we just want to make a success of what we've started to create here. And when you're both on the same page with stuff like that, you both have the same vision. So there's not too much to argue about.
That leads you to being back out August 6th on the Smith & Mason bill. Johnny, have we got an opponent lined up just yet?
Yeah, we've got a couple of names actually. There's a guy who's 6-0, there's a guy who's 11-8. We're just deliberating. We want to get a couple more options. The 6-0 guy I like the look of. I like the 11-8 bloke, reminds me a bit of Nguema. Quite durable, quite tricky. So we just got to weigh up our options. And I'm not worried about not rushing, because this is my career. This is my position. Whatever happens, it's going to be on me. So I've got to make the correct decision. So what I've learned is not to rush in my decisions. My dad's going to help me. I've got great managers who will help me look, and my promoters will do the right job and get me the correct opponent. Especially coming off the back of a broken hand, I want to be in a good position to get going again, and get rolling. And hopefully we'll do it in an emphatic way. But I'm having a look, and I'll make a decision in the next few days, hopefully.
Does the traditional route appeal to yourself? Because it seems like it's because the top side of the heavyweights is getting clearer and clearer in terms of the fights over there. Joe Joyce has now vacated his title, so that means that two fighters will fight for the British, and maybe you could then go for an English title or whatever it is. Does that sort of traditional route appeal to you, Johnny?
Oh yeah, that would really appeal to me to do that. But at the same time, I'm not. Just because it appeals to me or it's traditional doesn't mean it's always going to be the right way for me. There might be a thing that comes up, there's a youth title here or something you can go for. I haven't even thought that far ahead. All I think about is winning the next fight. I honestly mean that. I know it's a cliche to say, don't worry about that, but that's the best way to do it. Because I'm not at that level yet to fight for a British title. I'm not delusional in where I am, and there's no rush. Why would I need to rush? These other guys going through that, some of them are 26, 27, 28. I'm 23 years old. I've got 5 years on a lot of them, so I've just got to take it at my pace. And when I'm ready, it will become clear to me. So the only thing I think about now at the minute is winning the next fight, which is on the 6th of August, and that's what I've got to do. I've got to do my job then. Otherwise, none of that matters talking about other fights,
With the fan base building and building, getting bigger and bigger, and the fights as you climb the ladder, do you feel a sense of maybe expectation, or maybe even using the word pressure, to perform in front of the crowd who obviously wanting to see you be destructive?
Of course, there's always pressure, but every boxer has pressure, whether that's from having loads of fans in there, whether that's to some people have to fight for money because they won't be able to support their families. So everyone has to deal with their own sort of pressure. So I'm not moaning at that. A lot of boxers were killed to be in the position I'm in, to have the fan base that I've got. So it's a blessing to have that support. So there is pressure to perform and have a destructive victory, have a knockout, but they will come. If I perform well, the knockouts will come, and they have come. I've had 4 out of 5 knockouts, but it's important to have them fights where you don't always get it your own way as well. Like that last one where I had the injury, I had the cut, and I learned a lot from that one. So it's not always going to be the highlight reel knockout. So that means when we do get a highlight reel knockout, it's exciting for people, and it's great. It's a great feeling when you get the knockout.
Your attitude to boxing I find very interesting and I find very refreshing too, Johnny. Is that just you as a mark of a person, how you've dealt with things growing up, or is this something you've learned?
Listen, I've just been brought up to... The way I've been brought up from my mum and dad is you've got to put your heart and soul into everything you do, whether that be boxing, whether that's your schoolwork. If anything you commit to, you've got to do your best. And then that's all I'm doing in this sport. I'm trying to do my best, and I want to win at everything I do. That's simple. That's as simple as it gets. But when you try your best and you leave nothing you leave nothing out there, you give everything you got. There's no shame in whatever the result is. So you just got to keep going, keep working hard. And I don't see any benefit of not being honest about where you are, because there's no point lying to people. People can see when I go and fight what level I'm at, and I know I've got the potential to get to that top level. I know I've got the tools. I've got speed. I've got power. I've got durability. I'm fit. I'm quite athletic for a big heavyweight. So I've got the attributes there. It's just about managing that correctly. And part of winning is not thinking to take the easy route or take the quick route to success. Things can take a long, long time, and it's a good job I've got a long time in this sport if I want it.
Final couple of things from me, Johnny. A lot of rumours, and the rumours are getting louder and louder, that Conor Benn will be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. Your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, love to see it. It's going to be at catch weight, was it 156?
Somewhere around
yeah.
that, yeah.
So that'd be brilliant to see. I think I would favour Chris Eubank just because he is the naturally bigger man. But I like Conor. I've met Conor a lot of times, and what a nice bloke he is. What a nice bloke, and I'd love to see him do it. I've never really interacted with Chris Eubank, but I'll be excited to see that fight. I'm sure not only the boxing public, but people from just normal casual fans as well. They'd love to see that fight because of the history of the Eubank and Nigel Benn seniors.
Finally, Johnny, you're known as well for your love of Chinese. Johnny, can you list for me your top 3, 4, 5 takeaways in order?
Well, my takeaways, or I thought you were going to say takeaways, right? Chinese are the top of the list. I love fried chicken and ribs as well. That'd be my number 2. I'm a big fan of Indian as well.
What do you have?
I like king prawn dansak because when I eat it, I don't feel too guilty because it's chickpea based rather than being yogurt based with all the fat in it. So I have that, and but I do have naan bread and onion barges with it, so that might solid it up a little bit. And then the last one, see, I'm not a big fan of pizza really. I don't mind it. Pizza is pizza, but I don't know. I really don't know what my 4th one would be. I do like McDonald's because it's just so easy to eat. It's cheap as well. 20 quid, you can feed yourself for about 4 hours. Just keep picking at it. So. Yeah, quarter pound of cheese from McDonald's. Can't go wrong with that either.
Is there anything you don't eat?
I don't like bananas. Don't like mushrooms. Don't like tomatoes. I like fruit and vegetables. I'm just listing fruit and vegetables. I do eat fruit and vegetables as well. I have to eat a lot of that. But yeah, I'm just not a big fan of that. Oysters, I'm not really a fan of. Don't really like Nando's. I think it's quite boring and bland in there. I don't know why people go to Nando's. Like, honestly, sorry Nando's, but I'm just not a big fan. I think I saw once I was putting the chicken wings in to put them on the stove. They've just been part boiled for about 3 hours, and then they've just charred them on each side. Like, that's not fresh, is it? Who wants that?
Have you ever, just checking on this, have you ever thought about like a vegetarian diet before or vegan diet before? I remember it was one of the fighters' names has just escaped me. Lawrence Okolie, but there's an American heavyweight as well that's the one who did the vegan diet. Have you ever thought about exploring those sides?
Yeah, I think I would explore it for about 20 minutes and I'll get bored. But listen, whatever works for you. I think there's a lot of, with food, there's so many opinions on it and what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. There's no distinct right or wrong way. There's so much literature. It's like in history, you've got so many interpretations of a historical event. But who's actually right? No one actually knows. There's not enough studies. And one study will come out and say one thing, and the next study will say this thing. What you've got to do is find out what's right for you. My natural thing of what I do is you've got to eat whole, nutritious foods, organic foods, things that grow out the ground, things that have been fed great, as like meats that have been fed well. You can't go wrong with that. It's when you start eating too many processed things. Listen, I love a Chinese. I have a treat of the Chinese every now and then. But when I have my diet, it is very much whole foods, fish, vegetables, rice, like whole grain rice, things like that. Because whole foods are easy to digest and you don't feel bloated after them. It's important not to feel bloated because I have to eat a lot of food, but you've got to look after yourself in what you eat. And it's important just to be sensible. It's not got to be anything too drastic. Just eat well. Eat. You are what you eat at the end of the day, aren't you? If I eat a chicken and mushroom pie, I'm going to feel like a slob, aren't I?
Johnny, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to Boxing Social, much appreciated, and great insights on the food too. All the best for August 6th as well. Thank you so much.